When Tom slipped the ring onto my finger a month ago, I thought I was stepping into the happiest chapter of my life. My heart raced, tears welled in my eyes. I remember the way he smiled, his brown eyes crinkling at the corners, the way he whispered, "I can't wait to spend forever with you." I believed him. I believed us. 2 years of dating, 6 months of living together, and I thought we were solid. I thought we were building something real, steady, grounded, built on love and trust.
But now?
Now I'm sitting on my bed, staring at that same ring sitting in its velvet box on my nightstand, feeling like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Everything unraveled so quickly. I'll admit, I kept a big part of myself hidden at first. 3 years ago, my life changed overnight. I inherited a fortune. Millions. It didn't make me want to buy yachts or diamonds. Instead, it gave me security. I bought a comfortable house, invested wisely, and built a life where I could work part-time as a teacher, travel when I wanted, and start building a nonprofit I've dreamed of for years. I don't flaunt it. In fact, most people don't know. I live below my means. I drive a modest car, shop at regular stores, and only my dad and sister know the full extent of my finances. Even Tom didn't, at least not until recently. When he moved in 6 months ago, I paid for everything except groceries. Utilities, mortgage, internet, all mine. He took care of most of the food. It felt fair. He was contributing. He earns about 10 grand a month as a consultant, has around 100 grand in savings, and I respected that. I liked that he had his own career and independence. But after he proposed, the topic of the future started creeping in. And with it, the topic of money. It started small. One evening, we were sitting at the kitchen table, wine glasses half empty, and he said casually, "You know, maybe we should start looking at bigger houses. Something more fitting for both of us." I remember raising an eyebrow. Bigger? This place is more than enough. He swirled his glass, not meeting my eyes. "Well, eventually my dad will need to move in. You know how close we are, and I want to take care of him when he gets older. This house is fine, but it doesn't exactly have room for another person." My stomach tightened. I adore his dad. He's kind, funny, gentle. But living with in-laws? That was never part of the dream I had for my marriage. I told him so.
Gently.
I suggested maybe one day we could think about a separate unit or even a condo nearby, something that gave everyone privacy. He pushed back.
Hard.
It's family. Family comes first. And I don't want to live in a house that's just yours. I want us to have something that's ours. Equal. Equal. That word has been echoing in my head ever since. At first, I understood. I get it, he didn't want to feel like a guest in my home. I was open to discussing it. But when we started talking numbers, that's when the walls came down. I finally told him about my inheritance. Not the vague, "I had a small inheritance that helped me buy the house" story I'd given him before. The truth. Millions, invested, generating around 40 grand a month in income. I braced myself, thinking honesty would bring us closer, that it would show him I trusted him. His eyes widened, his mouth fell open, he was shocked. At first he laughed, almost disbelieving, then went quiet. And then the question started. "If you have so much money, why are we living here? Why don't you just buy us a new house outright? Why are you budgeting like you're broke?" Each one felt like a slap. I explained patiently, reminding him that just because I could spend more didn't mean I should. I wanted to make my money last. I wanted to live responsibly. I didn't want money to define our relationship. So I laid out what I thought was a fair plan. We keep separate finances, contribute to a joint account for household expenses, proportional to our income. That way, neither of us felt overburdened, and everything stayed transparent. And before marriage, we sign a prenup. Not because I didn't trust him, but because protecting assets is just smart. That's when things blew up. He stared at me like I had slapped him. "So, you want me to live in your house, pay into an account you control, while you sit on millions? That's not equal. That's you holding all the cards." My chest tightened, anger and hurt bubbling. "No, Tom. That's fairness. You contribute what's reasonable for you, I do the same. And the prenup is for both of us. If you don't believe in protecting each other, what are we even doing?" We argued for days, circling the same points. Him insisting that a true partnership meant I should buy a new house in both our names, even if he didn't contribute a cent more. Me insisting that if he wanted equity, he had to put in his share. Finally, one night, it all came to a head. He stood in the living room, fists clenched at his sides, eyes flashing. "Final offer," he said. "You buy the house. We each own 50%. I'll sign your prenup. but the house has to be ours. Take it or leave it. My blood ran cold. I stared at him, my mind spinning. So, if I say no, that's it? You're breaking up with me? He hesitated, just for a second. Then he said it. Yes. That was the moment everything shattered. I slipped the ring off my finger, my hands shaking. Tears blurred my vision, my voice cracked. Then it's over, Tom. Because I won't be bullied into giving away what I've worked to protect. You don't get to hold our relationship hostage. His face went pale. Wait, I didn't mean it like that. You did. I cut him off. You meant every word. You wanted to see if I'd cave, and when I didn't, now you're trying to backtrack. But this isn't love, Tom. Love isn't ultimatums. Love isn't demanding what isn't yours. The silence that followed was suffocating. He tried again, saying I was throwing away our relationship over money. But I couldn't even look at him, because deep down I knew the truth. He threw it away the moment he chose greed over us. That night, I told him he could sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow, he'd need to move out. Now here I am, staring at the ring on my nightstand, wondering how 2 years of love can collapse in just a few days. My chest aches, my head pounds, and all I can think is, did I do the right thing? Did I sabotage the best thing that ever happened to me? Or did I just save myself from a lifetime of being taken advantage of? I don't know. All I know is that my life just flipped upside down. And I don't know how to put it back together again. If someone had told me 2 years ago that I'd be here, ringless, heartbroken, replaying every moment of my relationship like a movie reel gone wrong, I would have laughed. Because when I first met Tom, he felt like a dream. I met him at a mutual friend's dinner party. I remember walking in late, frazzled from work, hair escaping from my bun, convinced I looked like a mess. I felt that familiar pang of self-consciousness as I smoothed my dress, and then I saw him, tall, confident, leaning back in his chair with that easy smile, talking animatedly about some project at work. He noticed me immediately. When our friend introduced us, his eyes lit up. You're the teacher, right? The one who works with special ed kids. His voice was warm, curious. And just like that, I was hooked. He asked me questions all night about my students, my nonprofit ideas, my travels. Not once did he make me feel small for being just a teacher. My cheeks flushed with every compliment he slipped into the conversation. He didn't even blink when I said I'd only been teaching part-time for the past year. Later, when he asked me out for coffee, I said yes without hesitation. Our first date was easy, effortless. He told me about his job as a consultant, his travels for work, his dad who raised him after his mom passed. There was something endearing about the way he talked about family, the fierce loyalty in his voice when he said, "My dad sacrificed everything for me. One day, I'll do the same for him." Back then, that loyalty felt noble, romantic. I admired it. The months that followed were a blur of dates, trips, laughter. We split everything evenly: dinners, gas money, hotel rooms. I liked that about him, the way he reached for his wallet without hesitation. He never seemed like the type to freeload. If anything, he seemed determined to prove he could stand on his own. When he first came over to my house, he whistled low. "Wow, this is really nice. Way nicer than my place." I shrugged, nerves buzzing in my stomach. I had a little help from family. That was my line back then. A vague inheritance explanation. I didn't want to scare him off. He didn't push. He just nodded and said, "Good for you." For the first year, we were golden. We took weekend trips, celebrated holidays with each other's families, made plans for the future. He was affectionate, thoughtful, supportive when my nonprofit plans hit snags. I met his dad, who hugged me and said I was the best thing that ever happened to his son. My heart soared. By the time we hit the 1-year mark, moving in together felt like the natural next step. I suggested it, half expecting him to hesitate, but he grinned and said, "Finally. I thought you'd never ask." That's when things shifted. At first it was subtle. He moved in with just a few boxes, clothes, books, some gadgets. No furniture, no big contributions. I told myself it made sense. I already had a fully furnished house. But soon he started commenting. "It feels weird, you know? Like I'm living in your space. Not ours." I brushed it off with promises that he could redecorate, that we'd make it ours together. A flicker of unease stirred in my chest, but I ignored it. Money wasn't an issue then. He paid for groceries, I covered everything else. It worked. But sometimes, when friends asked how we split expenses, he'd laugh and say, "Oh, she's the sugar mama." Always a joke. always with a smile. But the words lingered. 6 months into living together, he proposed. It was perfect. Sunset on the beach, champagne, the whole cliché. My chest swelled with joy, my eyes stung with happy tears. I said yes before he even finished asking. For a while, everything was bliss. We called our families, celebrated with friends, started tossing around wedding ideas. He'd hold me close at night and whisper, "I can't believe I get to marry you." But then came the conversations about the future. The house, his dad, and the finances. Looking back, I can see the cracks were already forming. The sugar mama jokes, the unease about living in my house, the way he never really put down roots of his own. But at the time, blinded by love and the sparkle of the ring on my finger, I ignored them. I told myself he loved me for me. That money would never come between us. I was wrong. Because the moment I showed him my cards, told him the truth about my inheritance, the man who once praised my independence, who once insisted on splitting the bill, started looking at me differently. Like I was a ticket, a solution, a bank. And once that shift happened, there was no going back. The first real crack came one night over takeout Chinese. We were curled up on the couch, cartons spread out on the coffee table, a rom-com playing in the background. It was one of those easy nights, the kind I loved, no makeup, messy bun, sweatpants. Halfway through his lo mein, Tom set his chopsticks down and said casually, "So, I've been looking at houses online." I blinked. Houses? For what? He gave me that smile that usually melted me. Not this time.
For us.
Don't you think it's time we start looking for something bigger? Something that feels like ours. My stomach dropped. I tried to keep my voice steady. Tom, we just got engaged. We haven't even picked a wedding date yet. He leaned forward, animated. Exactly.
This is the time to plan.
I don't want to raise a family or bring my dad here into a house that's just yours. It feels wrong. Don't you want a fresh start together? His words sounded sweet on the surface, but underneath them was a demand. I felt it in my bones. I hear you, I said carefully. But this house is fine for now. I bought it because I love it. If your dad ever needs to live with us, maybe we can think about a guest house or something separate. But I'm not ready to uproot everything just to buy a bigger house. His expression shifted. Just a flicker, but I caught it. The frustration tightening his jaw, the disappointment in his eyes. That was the beginning of a pattern. Every few days, he'd bring it up again. Sometimes gently, sometimes joking, sometimes with irritation simmering beneath his words. Don't you want something nicer? Wouldn't it be better to start fresh? My dad would be so much more comfortable in a bigger place. Each time, I reminded him we could revisit the idea later. Each time, I felt the tension coil tighter inside me. Finally, I suggested what I thought was the perfect compromise. Look, if we're going to seriously consider this, we need to talk about finances first. Lay everything out. See what we can actually afford together. His eyes lit up, finally. Yes, let's do that. So one night, we sat at the kitchen table with our laptops, bank statements, and notebooks. I was nervous, but also hopeful. Maybe this would bring us closer. Maybe we'd feel like a real team. Tom went first. 10,000 a month income, 100 grand saved, steady career. I nodded, impressed. He was doing well. Then it was my turn. I took a deep breath, hands trembling slightly. There's something I need to tell you. I haven't been completely upfront about my finances. His brows furrowed. What do you mean? I told you before that I had a small inheritance that was only part of it. The truth is, I inherited a lot more. Millions. It's invested, and I get about 40 grand a month in income from it. Silence. His jaw dropped, eyes wide. Millions, he repeated, almost choking on the word. I nodded, heart pounding.
Yes.
I didn't want to hide it, but I wasn't ready to share everything when we first started dating. I thought now, with us planning a future, it was only fair you knew. At first, he laughed, like it was a joke. Then he leaned back, shaking his head, muttering, "Holy SHD. Asterisk." Then the questions started. Rapid fire. So, why are we living here? Why don't you just buy us something bigger? Why are you working part-time like you need the paycheck? Each one stabbed at me. I tried to explain. Because just because I can spend more doesn't mean I should. I live within my means. I want my money to last. I want our life to be about us, not about my bank account. He wasn't listening. I could see it in his eyes, the calculation, the wheels turning. That's when I suggested the plan I thought was reasonable. Separate finances. a joint account for shared expenses, proportional contributions, and a prenup. I thought I was being fair, smart, responsible. Instead, it was like I'd lit a match in a room full of gasoline. He exploded. So, you want me to keep paying groceries while you sit on millions? You want me to live in your house under your name while you pull in 40 grand a month? That's not a partnership. That's me being your tenant. My chest tightened, fury rising. No, Tom. That's called fairness. You contribute what's comfortable for you, I do the same. Neither of us is drowning. And the prenup protects us both. That's how adults do it. His face twisted. Adults? Adults don't hide millions from their partners for 2 years. That cut deep. I swallowed hard. I didn't tell you right away, because I didn't want it to change how you saw me. I thought you loved me for me. Was I wrong? The way he hesitated before answering told me everything. The fights dragged on for days. We circled the same arguments until I felt dizzy with exhaustion. He kept hammering on about equality, but his definition was twisted. To him, equality meant me buying a house outright, putting it in both our names, handing him 50% even if he contributed nothing more. I refused. Over and over I refused.
Until the night he snapped.
We were in the living room, voices raised, the air electric with anger. He stood across from me, fists clenched, his voice sharp as glass. Final offer, he said. You buy the house, we each own 50%. I'll sign your prenup, but the house has to be ours. Take it or leave it. My blood went ice cold, tears pricked my eyes. I stared at him, heart pounding in my ears. So, if I say no, that's it? You're done with me? He hesitated, just for a second. Then, yes. Everything inside me shattered. I pulled the ring from my finger with shaking hands. My vision blurred, my chest ached. Then it's over. Because I won't be blackmailed into giving away what's mine. You don't get to hold my love hostage. His face drained of color. Wait, I didn't mean... You did. I whispered, my voice breaking. You showed me exactly who you are. The silence that followed was deafening. He tried to backpedal, to insist I was throwing everything away over money. But I knew the truth. He was the one who threw it away, with his greed, his entitlement, his ultimatum. That night, I told him to sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow, he'd have to leave. And as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my chest heavy with grief and rage, I realized the man I thought I was going to marry had just revealed himself to be a stranger. The morning after the ultimatum felt like a hangover, even though I hadn't touched a drop of alcohol. My head throbbed, my body was heavy, and my chest felt hollow. I woke up alone in the master bedroom, the empty space beside me colder than I expected. For a brief second, my brain tricked me into thinking the last 12 hours had been a nightmare. That maybe Tom and I hadn't screamed at each other, hadn't thrown years of love onto the fire. But then I rolled over and saw the engagement ring sitting on my nightstand, a pale little circle of broken promises. My throat tightened, tears burned my eyes. I pulled the blanket over my head and curled into myself, but the pounding on the door snapped me back to reality. Please, babe, can we talk? His voice. Tom's voice. Cracked, hoarse, desperate. I didn't answer. My silence was my only weapon. Minutes later, I heard him moving around downstairs, the faint clatter of dishes, the squeak of the kettle. Was he making coffee? Acting like this was any normal Sunday? I stayed locked in the bedroom for hours. I showered, I dressed, I brushed my teeth, all mechanical, all on autopilot. But the second I walked downstairs, there he was, waiting at the kitchen table like some penitent schoolboy. He'd made breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, coffee. The works. Anger flared inside me, so hot it nearly burned through my skin. Tom, I said flatly, arms crossed. A plate of pancakes doesn't erase what you said last night. He ran a hand through his messy hair, eyes bloodshot. I know, baby, I was out of line. I was frustrated, and I said things I didn't mean. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't mean it? Because you were pretty damn clear. Buy the house or I'm gone. How is that not exactly what you meant? He flinched. My heart twisted. God, I still hated seeing him hurt, even when he deserved it. I panicked, he admitted, voice low. I felt insecure, okay? You're sitting on millions, and I'm just me. I've worked hard my whole life, but suddenly it feels like I bring nothing to the table. I wanted us to be equals. I didn't mean to sound like I was using you. My arms dropped to my sides. His words hit me in that tender, dangerous place. The part of me that still loved him, still wanted to believe. But then another voice in my head whispered, or maybe he's just really good at spinning guilt into gold. I sat across from him, forcing myself to look him in the eyes. Tom, I need you to understand something. My money doesn't make me bigger than you. It doesn't make you less than me. But the second you try to claim what's mine just to soothe your ego, we stop being a team. We become enemies. He reached across the table, taking my hand. His palm was warm, trembling. I don't want to be your enemy. I want to be your husband. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. My chest ached, torn between anger and longing. You say that, I whispered. But if you really wanted to be my husband, you wouldn't have made me choose between you and my security. His eyes filled with tears too, his voice breaking. I'm sorry. Please. Give me another chance. I'll sign the prenup, I'll drop the house thing, for real this time. Just don't throw us away. Silence stretched between us. My heart screamed one thing, my brain another. I wanted to believe him, but his words from last night still echoed in my skull, sharp and ugly. Take it or leave it. I stared at him, this man I thought I knew better than anyone, and realized how fragile we were. One ultimatum had cracked the foundation. Could it ever be rebuilt? Finally, I pulled my hand back, slowly. I don't know, Tom. I need time. I need to think. He nodded, swallowing hard, eyes shining with unshed tears. Take all the time you need. I'll prove to you that I'm not that guy. Please, just don't give up on me yet. I left the kitchen, my breakfast untouched. Upstairs, I closed the bedroom door behind me, slid down against it, and let the tears come. My body shook, sobs racking through me until my chest physically hurt. Because the cruel truth was, I still loved him. Even after the ultimatum, even after the greed, even after the lies hidden in excuses, I still loved him. And that was the most terrifying part of all. The days after his apology were like walking on glass. On the surface, Tom seemed different, softer, gentler, almost overcompensating. He texted me sweet messages in the middle of the day. He came home with flowers, small gifts, little surprises. He cooked dinner more often, insisted on doing the dishes, even offered to handle the laundry, which he'd never done before. If someone had walked in and seen us, they'd probably think we were a couple on the mend. But I could feel the fracture line running down the middle of everything, sharp and jagged. No matter how many I love yous, he whispered, no matter how warm his arms felt around me at night, I couldn't forget the look on his face when he gave me that ultimatum. My stomach twisted every time I replayed it, his voice like a knife, his words cold, calculated. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But trust, once cracked, doesn't heal with roses and breakfast in bed. 2 weeks passed. 2 long weeks of smiles stretched too tight, and silences that said more than words. Then one evening, it happened again. We were curled up on the couch, watching TV, when a commercial for some luxury condo complex flashed across the screen. Gleaming kitchens, spa bathrooms, rooftop views. Tom shifted, cleared his throat. You know, if we sold this place and put some of your inheritance into something like that. My blood ran cold. My hands clenched into fists. Stop. My voice came out sharper than I intended. He blinked. What? Stop. Don't. We've been over this, Tom. I told you I wasn't going to use my inheritance like that. And you promised you'd let it go. He held up his hands, defensive. I wasn't pushing. I was just saying it could be an investment for our future. I shot up from the couch, anger burning through my veins. My chest heaved. My heart pounded like a drum. No. That's not what you were saying. You were trying to wedge the door open again. You can't help yourself, can you? Every chance you get, you circle back to the money, to the house, to what I can give you. His face hardened, his tone sharpening like steel. You're twisting this. I just want us to build a life together. I don't want to feel like a guest in my own marriage. I laughed bitterly, a hollow sound that scraped my throat. A guest? Tom, you were never a guest. This was supposed to be our home. You're the one who turned it into a transaction. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. Then he said it, the thing that broke me. I don't think I can do this if you don't trust me with your money. It was like being stabbed. Because there it was, laid bare in the ugliest way. His love was conditional. His commitment was transactional. I steadied my voice, though it shook. Then don't. Don't do this. Don't marry me. Because I will never hand over my money to prove my love to you. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked at me, really looked, and I saw it, the moment he realized I wasn't bluffing this time. I turned on my heel, stormed upstairs, and pulled a suitcase from the closet. My hands shook as I yanked open drawers, grabbed his shirts, socks, pants, balled them up, shoved them inside. My chest hurt so badly it felt like my ribs might crack open. He followed me up, his voice panicked now. Wait, what are you doing? Stop, please stop. I spun on him, tears streaming down my face. No, Tom. You stop. You stop pretending this is about love. You stop acting like I'm crazy for protecting what's mine. You stop gaslighting me into thinking I'm selfish when all I've done is try to be fair. He stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wet, hands trembling. I love you. Please, I love you, don't do this. I zipped the suitcase shut, the sound final and brutal. If you loved me, you wouldn't have made me choose between you and my security. If you loved me, you wouldn't keep coming back to the same demand. If you loved me, Tom, we wouldn't be here. My chest cracked open, grief flooding through me, but beneath it, relief. Cold, sharp, necessary relief. I dragged the suitcase down the stairs, set it by the door. He just stood there, hollow-eyed, broken. Leave tomorrow, I whispered. I'll be gone during the day. Pack whatever else you need. Don't come back. Then I walked upstairs, shut the bedroom door, and crumpled to the floor, sobbing until my throat was raw, until my body shook so violently I thought it might tear me apart. But beneath the pain, a truth settled in my bones. A truth I couldn't deny anymore. Love wasn't enough. Not when it came with strings. Not when it came with ultimatums. Not when it came at the cost of who I was. And I was done. The morning after Tom left, the house was unbearably quiet. I woke up to sunlight streaming across the sheets, but for the first time in months, the other side of the bed was empty. No slow breathing, no shifting, no warmth. Just silence. Part of me expected to hear his footsteps downstairs, the rattle of pans, his voice calling up to ask if I wanted coffee. But there was nothing. I padded barefoot into the kitchen, and for a moment I froze. On the counter sat the mug he always used, a spoon resting inside it. A tiny ghost of the life we had lingering. I should have felt shattered. And I did. Oh, I did. But underneath the grief, there was something else. A lightness. A freedom. Like someone had cut a rope that had been strangling me without my realizing it. That day, I called a locksmith. The sound of the drill biting into metal was jarring, but necessary. When the new locks clicked into place, I exhaled for the first time in days. Relief washed over me, sharp and clean. I also called my sister. She drove over within the hour, armed with snacks, wine, and the kind of fierce loyalty only siblings can bring. She sat with me on the couch while I sobbed into her shoulder, whispering again and again, "You did the right thing. You protected yourself. You protected your future." In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work. My nonprofit, something I'd been slowly nurturing, became my focus. I poured my energy into creating after-school programs, scholarships, resources for kids who didn't have the same safety net I'd had. Every late-night planning, every grant application, every success reminded me why I'd chosen to live below my means, why I'd fought to protect my fortune. Because it wasn't just mine. It was for something bigger. And slowly, piece by piece, I stitched myself back together. There were nights I cried, mornings I woke up lonely, afternoons when anger flared again at his betrayal, but each wave hurt a little less, passed a little quicker. 3 months later, I sat in my therapist's office, sunlight filtering through the blinds. She asked me what I'd learned. I thought for a long moment before answering. "That love without trust is just hope dressed up in pretty words," I said softly. "And I can't build a life on hope alone." She smiled. "That's powerful. Do you believe it?" I nodded. And for the first time, I truly did. Life went on. Seasons shifted. I took trips with my sister, visited my dad, built new friendships, even started hosting dinner parties again. The house felt alive in ways it never had with Tom, as if it knew it belonged to me again. And then, one evening at a fundraiser for the nonprofit, I met him. His name was Daniel. He was a professor, mid-30s, warm smile, eyes that actually listened. We started talking about education, about the future, about values, and not once did money enter the conversation. He didn't know who I was, didn't care about my house or my background. He just wanted to know about me, my dreams, my work, my ridiculous love of bad reality TV. We exchanged numbers that night, and over the weeks that followed, he showed me something I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Stability. Thoughtfulness. A gentleness that didn't waver when challenged. He insisted on paying for dinner sometimes, but never balked when I offered. He talked about his research, his students, his passion for teaching, not once about upgrading homes or financial futures. With him, everything felt balanced. It's still new, still tentative, but when I look at Daniel, I don't feel the tight coil of dread I felt with Tom. I don't feel like I'm on trial, waiting for the next ultimatum. Instead, I feel seen. I feel safe. My heart beats softer, steadier. My shoulders don't tense. I breathe easier. Looking back now, I don't regret any of it. Not the inheritance reveal, not the fights, not even the heartbreak. Because it showed me what I would and wouldn't tolerate. It showed me that boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. And, maybe most importantly, it reminded me that love is only real when it's built on respect. So no, I wasn't the jerk. Not then. Not now. I was just a woman who learned, the hard way, that sometimes the greatest act of love you can give is to yourself. It's been almost a year since Tom walked out of my life, suitcase in hand and regret heavy in his eyes. For a long time, I wondered if I'd ever stop replaying those nights, his ultimatum, my tears, the silence that followed. But time has a strange way of softening sharp edges. What used to feel like open wounds now sit as faint scars, reminders of a lesson learned. I don't hate him. I don't even resent him anymore. I just see him clearly now for what he was, a man who let fear and greed outweigh love. A man who mistook partnership for ownership. A man who thought he could bargain for my trust instead of earning it. And me? I'm different too. Stronger. Wiser. Softer in the places that matter. Sharper in the places that protect me. Daniel is still in my life, and with him, everything feels calm in a way I didn't know was possible. There are no ultimatums, no hidden strings, no lingering doubts. Just quiet mornings, thoughtful conversations, and laughter that fills the corners of my home. He doesn't compete with my independence, he celebrates it. He doesn't see my money as leverage, he sees it as irrelevant to who I am. My heart feels lighter these days, steady instead of frantic, safe instead of second-guessing. Sometimes I catch myself wondering, what if I had said yes to Tom's final offer? Where would I be now? Probably trapped in a life where love was conditional and my voice was always bargaining for space. Probably smaller, dimmer, less myself. But I didn't say yes. I chose me. And because of that, everything is different. The funny thing about endings is that they don't always look like endings. Sometimes, they're beginnings in disguise. This wasn't the end of my love story. It was just the end of the wrong one. And as I stand here now, balanced, whole, and unashamedly myself, I realize that walking away wasn't the hardest thing I ever did. It was the bravest.